Hey everyone, thanks for joining us once again. We are talking more about nutrition. This time we are talking about toddler nutrition, and joining us today we have Wendy Lyle. You are with the Midland Health Department, and she's very knowledgeable, and especially with new moms, if you guys are watching, this is going to be very important for you. So first let's talk about, when we talk about toddler, we're talking about the ages 2 to 4 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
So around when is the appropriate time to be feeding your child solid foods if you're making that switch from baby food to solids?
So they need to be able to grab a hold of the food and be able to put it towards their mouth. They need to be able to chew it up, of course, because when you're using baby food, it's pretty ground up. So they may not have all their teeth yet. By the time they're 2, they have them, and so that you want to be able to pick it up, and they need to be able to feed themselves with that, but start with those soft foods first.
And so would that be, I guess, what would the time span be if a mom is noticing that? Like, oh, my child can actually pick up food with their own hands.
It's different for every toddler. They progress at different stages, so you're just going to kind of have to kind of watch. But typically, by the time they're 2, they're able to do that.
And then so let's talk about reducing choking. So that's kind of the other thing that I wanted to lead into. What are some ways that parents can be on the lookout for that?
So if you're serving them vegetables, you can cook them or steam them until they're soft, and then when you cut up their slices, cut them up very small, or cut them in a longer shape, not round or something. Like even with grapes, they could choke on grapes. So cut them to where they're elongated, and that should help. Watch with other foods such as weenies, like if you're feeding them hot dogs or weenies, cut them up pretty small so that they can not choke on it. Hot dogs, a lot of times the weenie is something that they'll choke on quite a bit. And then watch, don't ever leave them alone. Be there while they're eating, watch to make sure they're not choking.
And so when a child is typically starting to get into that stage where they're starting to eat solid foods, is that just natural for them to start chewing, or do they still get into that habit of just not chewing?
So it is natural for them to start chewing. It is one of our reflexes that we kind of do as we get, mature, but you can remind them, hey, you need to chew up your food, because they may still try to swallow it without it being chewed up good enough. I know used to, they told you to chew it for 100 times. But, just watch and make sure they're doing a full chew, and, they'll move it around their teeth. Just kind of watch for stuff like that. But you can remind them, hey, you need to chew a little more,
Okay, very good. And then how much protein does a child need to take on a
So
basis?
protein, I gotta find it. 13 grams of protein a day. So that's about 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is around 8 grams of protein. And then 1 cup of cooked brown rice contains 5 grams. 1 large egg contains 6 grams. 1 cup of milk contains about 8 grams of protein, but they need 13 grams per day. So you can just kind of calculate it that way. They're small. They need the small portions throughout the day though.
Okay, and then what about milk? Is there ever such thing as having too much of it?
Yes, of course there's too much. You can have too much milk. Children at that age kind of needs the vitamin D milk because the fat in it does help build their brain. And so at that time, they need that fat, but yet you kind of have to monitor it and make sure they don't drink too much. So milk, they should get around 2 to 3 cups or 16 to 24 ounces of whole milk each day. And that needs to be served with their meals. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can serve it that way. Just make sure it comes out to be about 2 to 3 cups a day.
Okay, very good. If a toddler is not eating enough meat, what are some ways that parents can get that iron into their diet?
So to get that iron into that diet, you can give things such as oatmeal. There's other alternatives, where you can get iron. Iron fortified cereals, just make sure it doesn't have too much sugar in it, but cereals are fortified in iron quite a bit. That came about when, long time ago, that they decided that this is a good way for us to get our iron. If we're not getting enough, we'll fortify the cereals with it. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, peanut butter, sandwiches, eggs, vitamins with iron, the little Flintstone vitamins. You can get it in that. Yeah, I bring that up because that's what I remember as a child eating. It's my little Flintstone vitamins. So they have iron in them as long as, you can get them their vitamins.
The funny thing about those is that I would spit them out because I just didn't like the taste of them.
I only like the orange ones. So
yeah, the orange ones were great.
I gave my sister the other ones.
So what about vegetables? If a child is maybe not into vegetables, what is one way you can kind of get that into their diet?
Sometimes a child may look at it and be like, oh, I don't like the color, or they don't like how it feels. And that's okay, because sometimes it takes about 8 or 10 times of trying something that they're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try it now. But just continue to introduce it. But try to introduce one vegetable at a time in its true form. Because if you're mixing it or mushing it up or something, they won't associate the taste of that vegetable with what it really looks like. Same thing goes for fruit. But try it different times, and also try it when they're eating their meal already and it's their favorite. Let's say macaroni and cheese. Try it with that because they love macaroni and cheese, and introduce a little bit of that vegetable with it. But continue to try to introduce it and be a good role model. Yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
So I mean, if you don't like broccoli, but you're trying to get your child to eat broccoli,
yeah,
you're going to have to try and eat broccoli, because you need to be that good role model for them. It doesn't have to be a lot, because, like, once again, toddler portions are very small. MyPlate.gov gives you it sizes how that is. So that's a good starting point to figure out how much. But, you need to try to eat that broccoli with them so you can be a good role model.
Would you say that's an important part as far as teaching kids to not be picky eaters?
Yes. Sometimes it just very well may be they have a different sensation or something, and their taste buds are different than ours. But yes, with picky eaters, I think it's very important that they see that it's good. You're trying to eat it. Make it fun, honestly. And so if you're eating it, they're like, oh, that must be good, because they look up to mom and dad, and well, that must be good because mom and dad are eating it. So yeah, I think that really helps picky eaters. But don't make a big deal out of it. Like don't be like, you're going to eat your broccoli or you're not going to get anything else.
Yeah.
It's just they're trying new things, and so don't make a big deal out of it. Just kind of make it fun. Maybe cut them up in little cute pieces or something.
So on this graphic here, it says produce pickers.
Yes.
What is that?
So produce pickers, when you go to the store and you're in the produce aisle, let them help pick out what they might want to eat.
Okay.
Show them the vegetables. Let them pick out, maybe some zucchini or spaghetti squash or something, some weird stuff. I did that with my kids. I let them pick out, it was fruit really, but I'd let them pick out, and trust me, we ended up with some weird fruit. We ended up with some dragon fruit, we ended up with some jackfruit, and we would have different fruits in the fridge, and we'd figure out if we liked it or not, but we would try them together. So they can be produce pickers with that.
Did it help them in the long run whenever they were starting to get into these types of fruits, or did they not like some of them?
To be honest, I probably started a little too late.
Okay.
Yeah, mine were already in elementary school when we kind of
Gotcha.
went through that. But yeah, I think it could help.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen other parents do it, and it does seem to help some. And it may just be a whole sensation or taste bud thing, because my taste buds are going to be different than your taste buds, and it very well could be they just don't like it. But try it about 8 or 10 times, and if they still don't like it, that's fine. Maybe try a couple of months later. Our taste buds do change as we age too. So I know with each pregnancy, mine changed. So, and as I get older, it changes.
Right.
So, just continue to try it.
So I was seeing videos of moms who were making like spaghetti, for example, but they would mix vegetables into the meat sauce and they would feed it to their kids. I told this to a dietitian and they would say, no, don't do that. Yeah. So what is that bad to sneak in vegetables, let's say, into their food and not tell them?
Because you're not showing them that true form of the vegetable. And let's say you're sneaking in a bell pepper, and they see a bell pepper, and you're trying to get them to eat, let's say stuffed bell peppers or something. They're not going to associate that the bell peppers in the spaghetti sauce are exactly the same thing as the bell pepper you're trying to get them to eat that's stuffed. So no. Let them help you prepare the food, and you can show them you're putting it in there, and then say, this is how it tastes though, taste it, just try it. But yeah, you're sneaking it in, you're kind of hiding it from them, and so they're not going to realize that that's what they're eating, and they're still not going to pick the vegetable that you're trying to get them to eat. But picky eaters, as long as the doctor knows that they're still gaining weight and doctor says, it's fine, then don't worry too much about it. They're getting their nutrition as long as you give them well-balanced diets.
Is it always best to start early, would you say, to getting kids into the habit of
Yes.
trying out these new foods?
Absolutely. So being a toddler is the best time because, you know, it's new. And so you start habits when you're young. And so if you continue to introduce all this food and stuff, they start to like it. It becomes a habit. Of course, well, you know, proportions, you start teaching them proportions and all that stuff, then, you know, yes.
And then what about nutritional labels? So I know sometimes I just completely skip over them, and I like juice too, like a lot of kids out there. What should parents be on the lookout for if they're buying juice, for example?
So juice should still be limited each day. So you should only have, I think it's 2 cups a day. But when you're looking for it, look for 100% juice. You don't have to if you're not going to pull the label back, that's fine, and look at it. But on the front part of it, it'll say 100% juice. But be careful with juices such as, be careful with juices such as pear juice, apple juice. And the reason being is they are high in sorbitol, which is a sugar alcohol that just is natural that way. But toddlers can't, it causes upset stomachs and stuff. So they can have it in small portions, or you can water it down even. But only give juice like milk at dinner time, you know, maybe during the meal time. They really should get water in between meal times.
Okay. And then what about, like let's say there's a juice that says no added sugar or no sugar whatever. Is that also bad if they're using alternative types of sugars?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's
Why?
the same reason, because a lot of times they'll use that sorbitol alcohol, which
Okay.
is natural. They'll use it in there. And of course, it can cause that stomach upset. But a lot of times they'll add like stevia or equal. I mean, it's still bad for you. It still causes other issues. You still have to watch for the sugars you do.
So then what if, let's say there's a child who wants to only drink sodas, only juices? How can you get them to drink more water if they just don't want to drink it?
So you kind of make water fun. You can put fruit in it, infuse it with herbs, you know, such as peppermint or something.
Mm-hmm.
Find something the child likes. You can cut up fruit and put it in their ice cubes. Make cute little ice cube shapes and then put it in their water. But also leave it readily available. So, you know, maybe leave a sippy cup of water on the counter. They can run by and get it. But you got to start early with that. Don't start giving them sodas early on because, of course, they're going to want it. It's got lots of sugar in it. And so, you know, just make it a habit of drinking the water. And once again, be a good role model.
Would you say that there is an age where you're just too young to drink sodas?
I think that's a personal thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know.
I mean, because if you think about it, sodas have caffeine in them, of
Yeah.
course, and then they have that added sugar. Even if you're getting zero, you know, Coke, I drink Coke Zero, it still adds that sugar to it, the unnatural one. So even though it says no sugar added, they're talking about table sugar kind of. So it still has some sugar in it. It's just in a different form. And then a lot of them have high fructose contents, which is more sugar. But the caffeine too, their little bodies really don't need all that extra caffeine.
Yeah, I agree. What about different types of snacks? If a child wants to snack throughout the day, could too much of one be?
Yes, of course, portion size.
Okay.
You want to do portion sizes, and then only snack in between a meal, but make sure it's 2 to 3 hours prior to the meal. Because if you give them a snack an hour before mealtime, they're not going to be as hungry and eat what you've made, which is a more well-balanced diet. So keep the snacks small though, and then give them good healthy snacks. Give them something high in protein. So give your child 2 to 3 snacks per day. That's all they really need. Like I said, make sure it's 2 to 3 hours before mealtime, and make sure that they are high fiber, high protein snacks. This helps them to regulate blood sugar, and it helps with their growth too. And if you can't at the time, pick maybe low saturated fat and low sugar snacks, such as, you know, fruits and veggies, peanut butter, granola bars, dairy, hard-boiled eggs even, or a little tuna or chicken.
Okay. Always make it look pretty too. I know kids are attracted to a lot of color and when things are fun. So that was one of the things that I learned when I was in kindergarten was like celery, peanut butter and celery, which
Yes.
now I wouldn't eat it, but like back then when I was a kid, it was just so fun to make. So.
And then you can put the little raisins on top, so it's
Yeah.
ants on a log. Yes, you can make all kinds of cute little things. And now they have all these cute shapes, so you can kind of cut it up. You know, you make cute little peanut butter sandwiches and stuff. Yeah.
So if they're snacking on fruit, can too much fruit be bad as well? Because there are some sugars in fruit.
Yes, there are. So fruit has natural sugars in it, and so it's more complex carbs, which is good for you, but in moderation. And that's for anybody, not just toddlers. But yes, too much fruit can also add too much weight, and it can also spike those blood sugars and then have a little crash with it. So sometimes you can give a fruit with some protein, you know, maybe an apple and some peanut butter, kind of balance it out a little bit. But they should only still get 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day. And that would be about 1 to 2 tablespoons of cut up fruit would equal 1 serving. If it's fresh fruit, about half a piece. Cooked or canned fruit is about 1/4 cup. And juice actually can count as that too. And it's about 1/4 to half a cup.
Gotcha. If there is a child who's very sporty, very active in sports, how does a parent know that they're giving that child enough meals, I guess you could say?
So as long as, you know, they're still gaining the weight and the doctor says they're still growing and stuff, but I would listen to the child. There's no one fit for any child, of course. That goes from toddler on up. But a balanced diet of complex carbs, lean protein, healthy fat, fruits and vegetables are snacks as well, might help. And you might add an extra healthy snack, you know, maybe right before a game or right after one when they're hungry, because they've burned through all that energy.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anything else that you would like to add that I didn't ask?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything with toddlers. Of course, always you can refer back to your doctor, you know, ask about that. There are, you know, websites that help you too, such as CDC or myplate.gov. That one, of course, is a great resource for parents, or WIC. WIC is a great resource too.
Does Midland Health Services have resources for any parents out there?
Yes, absolutely. We could get you resources from anywhere. Just give us a call or stop by and we can find you some resources.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I know when you're, you know, raising a toddler, it can be a little scary sometimes. I have a friend who her toddler just turned 2 and now she's still in that, oh my gosh, terrible twos. But it does, you know, nutrition doesn't have to be scary and it can be fun. And I've learned that, you know, very early on in life, and your kids can too. And, you know, snacking can always be a healthy thing and it can also be fun. So thank you so much for your expertise, Wendy.
Anytime.
All right. If you want to see more interviews that we have with Midland Health Services, be sure to log on to our website at newswest9.com or download our app. It's called 9 Plus. See you guys next time.